Attack on American democracy continues. Welcome to Law and Society. Today we're going to talk about gerrymandering. First off, let me just say that I did not focus on election law at all, ever. When it comes to elections, all I know is that Article 2 of the Constitution gives the power to states and to Congress. And then if you look at the 12th Amendment, the 20th Amendment, and the 25th Amendment, these clearly point out how elections are in the domain of states. And, states periodically redistrict on the basis of population. But gerrymandering is a process where election lines are drawn in peculiar ways and that are intended to disenfranchise the minority populations. And in most instances, that is the African American vote. And so what Donald Trump is pushing for Texas to do right now is to redistrict Texas in a way as to move around the drawing and the redistricting and the population and cutting and snipping, instead of having just regular lines drawn across populations geographically. These are drawn in such a weird way. If you look at Texas's electoral map, or if you look at any state of California's electoral map, or if you look at any states, Florida's, you'll see these weird ways in which these districts are intertwined that sort of make no sense, other than to say that it's actually Congress, it's actually the states, and by way of that, when Congress adopts and says that, the courts say that these redistricting maps are all right and constitutional if they're ever challenged. If not, they are state procedures, and the states redistrict according to what they find to be the population in each area. But when you have redistricting happening on the basis of, disenfranchising, say, the Black community or the Latino community, then it goes to see if it is a violation of the Equal Protection Clause. The states are doing it. Is it a violation of the 14th Amendment when you're doing that? So, and whether it violates all the procedures that are provided in the 12th, 20th, and 25th Amendments or not, those also come into question. And so there's this corruption happening in the electoral process. And the states can do what they want, and because Texas is very openly following Donald Trump's command to trying to add 5 Republican districts, therefore draw the lines in a way to disenfranchise the Democratic Party, and also because the Southern Democratic Party is heavily African American, disenfranchise the African American vote. So to echo the chicken, are they disenfranchising African Americans, or are they solely devoted to holding power? And it's a combination of the two, because they have always been historically tied, and there's racism that undergirds this whole process of gerrymandering. So, because Texas is now acting like it can rule however it wants to redistrict and add 5 more GOP seats, Governor Newsom has come out and said that we're going to do the same redistricting in a supermajority Democratic state. And New York should consider doing that as well as New Jersey. I say Illinois should do that as well. If there are states that have supermajorities of the Democratic Party, let them redistrict. if gerrymandering is to become the common law of elections, unless there's some sort of a congressional act and legislation done to be able to have some sense, or if states come to their senses and district without gerrymandering, this is in the purview of Congress and the states. But you have here the President of the United States corrupting the electoral process by pushing Texas to redistrict so that Republicans don't lose their majority in the 2026 midterm elections, because right now it's looking like they will, so that Congress remains in the hands of the GOP, and Donald Trump can keep doing what he's doing for the next 4 years instead of 2 years. So we have entered this adversarial world. We need to learn that. And when I say adversarial, I don't mean overt enemies. I mean conflicting ideas and conflicting interests. But when you look at the people, when you take polls, when you talk about the political issues to a majority of the people, it is not the majority of the people dictating these policies. Majority of the people don't like how immigration is going. Majority of the people believe in climate science. Majority of the people don't want to see innocent people die preventable deaths. So we are living in a world that is adversarial in nature. We're living in a world that is created by the Supreme Court, where our rights are hanging in the balance, like birthright citizenship. I look at birthright citizenship as the constitutional, but then there's also the issues of the 4th and 5th Amendment violations and 14th Amendment violations when the federal government and then also state actors from the various states add to the immigration detention camps and the illegal removals without due process of law. That is creating an adversarial world where the extent of our constitutional rights are coming into question. The extent of what our value is and as human beings, our dignity is coming into question. Because when you look at those detention centers, there's nothing dignified about them. When you look at the blatant corruption of the electoral process, when you see that the president is poking into what is constitutionally exclusively in the domain of the states and Congress, and the states are going along with it for purely political reasons and doing it through the racist means of gerrymandering. So we make that into the status quo. Every state can do that, and every state should do that in a way as to favor their party. Is that how democracy is supposed to work? That is a further corruption of democracy. So gerrymandering and the way that states are districted, the congressional districts are drawn, is a huge problem. It's a huge problem in blue and red states. So whether that requires uniformity by way of federal law, or if that requires uniformity by an understanding between all states, that's up to the states and to Congress. There is no room anywhere here for the president to say anything. I want you to remember that when you look at this Texas act of redistricting that is happening by the push of the incumbent president of the United States. With that said, I conclude today's topic, and I will come and talk to you about the ongoing attack on democracy, on the rule of law that we are seeing every single day. And I will be eternally grateful if you will like, share, and please subscribe to my channel. Thank you so much, and I'll talk to you soon.